Okay, folks, here we go again. I didn't want to start out with this, but here it is. Keep in mind this is BuzzFeed, and BuzzFeed is not exactly news. It is one of the leading proponents of grievance politics. Caleb McLaughlin recalled a moment his parents told him he was being treated differently by Stranger Things fans because he was the black kid. Why am I the least favorite, the least amount of followers? I'm on the same show as everybody from season 1. So apparently this is another woe is me victimhood narrative. Caleb McLaughlin naturally is this kid. He is the only black child from the main, I guess, child cast of Stranger Things. And so apparently for some reason he felt the need to go forward. I'm not sure if he's promoting anything or if this is just, let me talk about racism, because let's talk about racism. The show follows a group of kids in the fictional town of Hawkins, Indiana, and the young cast is made up of Caleb McLaughlin, Noah Schnapp, Finn Wolfhard, Gaten Matazzaro, and Millie Bobby Brown. Most people already know this. It's a popular show. Over the years, the group have attended conventions around the globe while also using their surge in social media profiles to interact with their millions of dedicated fans. In fact, Noah is often going viral for his online shenanigans, which recently included a run-in with Doja Cat. That explains his social media popularity, and Millie's off-screen success saw her feature in 2008 Time 100. Millie plays the main girl 11 and is very popular off-screen for, not just her acting and professional success, but also her personal life, which I won't get into because some of it is very disturbing. But not every Stranger Things child actor has felt the full extent of the fandom's love and dedication, with Caleb recently opening up about his experience with racism while growing up in the public eye. So this is Caleb. Caleb was just 14 when he made his debut as Lucas Sinclair in season 1, and his character is one of the central roles in the series. In the early episodes, Lucas was shown to be wary of Millie's character, 11, and her psychokinetic abilities after his friends came across her when Noah's will went missing. However, he eventually realized that 11 was on their side and welcomed her into the group. And once Sadie Sink joined Stranger Things as Max in season 2, her and Lucas's relationship became another focal point of the show that even featured in the most recent 4th season. But despite Caleb's consistently integral role throughout the series, he has noted that he doesn't seem to receive the same amount of support from viewers as his co-stars. In fact, Caleb has the least amount of social media followers of the young cast, and he has also said that lines to meet him at conventions have been markedly shorter than his peers. Now 20, the star opened up about his experience during an appearance at Heroes Comic Con in Belgium, where he admitted that the treatment he received in comparison to Noah, Finn, Kaiten, and Millie affected him a lot when he was younger. Caleb also recalled a moment that his parents told him that he was the least favorite and had fewer followers because he is the black child on the show. So that's what his mommy told him. So the reason you don't have as many followers as others is because you're black. My very first Comic-Con, some people didn't stand in my line because I was black. That's a pretty strong statement to suggest the reason people didn't stand in your line was because you were black. But Caleb explained during the live Q&A, some people told me, I didn't want to be in line because you were mean to 11. Even now, some people don't follow me or don't support me because I'm black. Okay, so how do you go from How do you go from because you were mean to 11 to because you're black? Look, I know there are some people who cannot distinguish between a character on a show and the actual real life actor playing the role. I mean, I knew of someone whose mom whose mom hated Danny Glover because of his role in The Color Purple. But again, how did that? It's because you're black. Why no people wanted to stand in your line? So this just feels far-fetched. Sometimes overseas, you'll feel the racism, he went on. You'll feel the bigotry, and sometimes it's hard to talk about and for people to understand. Once again, there's no example given of this racism and bigotry that you'll feel. Like, is it, I'm not as popular, not many people come up to meet me, so it must be racism? I don't understand. You know, when I was younger, it definitely affected me a lot because this is deep. This is a deep conversation right now. You're like, why am I the least favorite, the least amount of followers? I'm on the same show as everybody else. Again, equality of opportunity is not equality of outcome. There might be many different reasons behind it, including the fact that you may come across as the least interested. As of September 2022, some of Caleb's co-stars have over 10 million more Instagram followers than he does, with 15.4 million people following Caleb. So 15.4 million people following you on social media, and that's something to cry about because it's not as many as some of your co-stars. Gayton has 18.7 million. He puts himself out there. Finn has 26.3 million. He puts himself out there. He was also recently in the latest Ghostbuster movie, and he's been doing a lot of things. Noah has 27.6 million. He also puts himself out there. Most recently, he was in a feud with the rapper Doja Cat. And Millie has 58.5 million. She has the most, which makes a lot of sense. She is the only female. She's the main central character, and the actress's personal life has been, well, inappropriately out there. So that makes a lot of sense. Sadie, who joined the show in season later, has 24.9. Also, she was popular before she joined the show and also puts herself out there doing other things. My parents had to be like, it's a sad truth, but it's because you're the black child on the show, which again has no context. What does that mean? Well, that's crazy because I was born with the beautiful chocolate skin. I'm not loved. That's tricky, but Caleb refuses to stoop to the level of the racist. So apparently he doesn't have as many followers and supporters, so it must be due to evil racists. Others were keen to point out this, oh God, that one of the show's villains, Billy Hargrove, has a dedicated fan base despite the character being racist towards Lucas. I think this character just has a cult following. Black actors are always on the receiving end of hate and racism in their real lives over fictional characters they portray. Meanwhile, white actors play literal villains and their characters will be adored and thirsted after. One person wrote on Reddit, like Billy from Stranger Things, who has a huge fan base because they found him hot despite the fact that the character was a racist POS. And yet somehow this racist, ugly disease. Okay, I'm not even going to do that. No, because white character industries have done way worse than be mean to a character and have people excusing everything they do. No, because white characters in the series have done. This is why I will always ride for the black characters in any show. The way these predominantly white fan bases be acting towards them. Again, there is no actual evidence of anyone hating him because he's black. You know, there are many different reasons here things going on here. It's not as if this guy is, struggling to gain followers. He has nearly 16 million followers on social media. This is despite the fact that he is the one who puts himself out there the least. And if you look at the four, sorry, that jumped a little bit, but if you look at the four characters, and I'm going to get into this a little bit because this also may play a role. In the past, it's gotten a little bit better, but in the past, there have long been issues where the Black characters in ensemble casts were not written well. They were simply there just to be seen. I mentioned this in the video that I did on The Craft. Rochelle, played by Rachel True in The Craft, was one of those characters who was in the show, in the movie, but her character was the least interesting because she had the least thing going for her. Her entire story arc focused on a character, Laura, played by Christine Taylor, who was racist towards her. That was her entire story arc. This one girl was racist towards her. And as I've pointed out in the past and now, racism has little to do with Black people. It's an external factor that has little to do with a Black person's internal development and existence. So writing it as if it's something for a Black character to get over makes it very problematic. And if anything, the character of Laura, played by Christine Taylor in The Craft, was the one with the story arc. She was the one who started out as racist. Then once she was cursed, she started losing her hair, and then it forced her to become a recluse and subsequently to re-examine her life and her decisions. And she later became a better person, and she apologized to Rochelle, and they moved on. So, the racism, as Daniel Kaluuya puts it, is not our problem. It's the problem of the racists. And they're the ones who need to deal with that because that is their internal tragic flaw. So making racism the storyline of Rochelle's character essentially rendered her character not interesting or without any real storyline compared to her co-stars. We know Sarah was the main lead, and she was the one who was the center of everything. Then you had Bonnie, who had that skin problem that made her insecure, that she subsequently had to get over. And then you had, of course, you had Nancy, who was the bad girl and the leader of The Craft, and she had that whole storyline about being poor, living in an abusive household, and being resentful of Sarah and subsequently going down a bad path. These characters were written far more interestingly than Rochelle's character, whose entire arc centered around something that had nothing to do with her. And subsequently, I know Rachel True has spoken out in the past few years about the way she's been ignored by the fandom. Like, the other actors have been invited to conventions and she has not, because they see her as a peripheral character. Now, the thing with Caleb's character of Lucas is of the four characters in the show, I would say Lucas is, while he does have something to do because they've done something with his character, Lucas is still the one who is the least interesting. We know that 11 is 11 because she's the main character. She's the one with the power. She's the one that, is the hero. And then we have Noah, who is the victim character, the one who was initially possessed and taken over and dragged to the upside down and all that stuff. And he was a sympathetic character. And then you had Finn's Mike character, who sort of is put into the role of the generic white male lead, but is not interesting in his own right, but because his storyline ties him to both 11 and Will's character, it kind of gives him something to do. In the most recent season, he's caught in this love triangle between 11 and Will, and Will is dealing with his budding sexuality, whatnot. So he was kind of dragged into all of that. Again, these actors behind the scene, they also do a lot of things, which I've never seen of Caleb. Granted, I don't really follow these people on social media, but the only ones I usually hear about doing stuff in the media are usually Millie Bobby Brown, Noah's character, Finn, and Gaten. They're all doing other things. They seem to be actively engaging with fans on social media, or actively putting themselves out there, whereas Caleb doesn't seem to be doing that. He seems to be very chill. his character in the recent season of Stranger Things was literally separated from the group. Well, technically the group was all broken up, but he joined another crew. And he didn't really do much except he had to abandon his new crew to rejoin his old crew, which that was the essence of his story arc. But even again, Max's character, played by Sadie Sink, had a far more interesting plot line with her and her brother and him dying, and now the recent season with her being the one haunted by this entity. So I don't know. Caleb's character of Lucas is written better than Black characters are often written in these types of ensemble casts, in that he has more to do and he is slightly more integrated with the other characters, but he also still suffers from a lack of like interesting character arc. But again, it's not as if Caleb is suffering from support here. He has nearly 16 million followers. He's not the most popular. The most popular, you could tell without even having to look at it, would have been Millie Bobby Brown, for the reason that she's 11 and she is the main character, and she has a lot of off-screen antics. Noah also gets involved with a lot of off-screen drama. So does Finn and Gaten. They all engage in a lot of things behind the scenes, whereas Caleb doesn't seem to do any of that. He doesn't seem to care about being a social media star. If you look at his social media, if you look at he doesn't do much. He doesn't do much on his social media. He seems like very mature, very chill. So, he's posting photos with his family. He's not exactly giving people anything to talk about. And I'm not saying he needs to, debase himself that way by engaging in social media drama, but to pretend that it doesn't matter, that your personality, we live in the social media age where having a personality does matter, and your integration into the larger, celeb culture does matter, and he doesn't seem to do much of that. Even so, 16 million followers is nothing to cry about. But I'm bothered by the fact that his parents told him, oh, you're not as popular because you're Black. I'm bothered by that, because even if his character was not the least developed in the show, and again, his character is better developed than I've seen Black characters in ensemble casts get developed, his personality behind the scenes also plays a major role. I mean, I look at George Takei and William Shatner on social media, and if you can believe it, William Shatner obviously was the main character in OG Star Trek. He was Captain Damn Kirk. But on social media, George Takei is actually more popular. If you can believe it, George Takei is more popular. And so it has nothing to do really with the roles, because in obviously OG Star Trek, George Takei was barely in it. But on social media, George Takei is far more popular than William Shatner, which isn't saying much because William Shatner has a large following as well. But George Takei, because he actively engages with people, he engages in politics and and social media arguments and he engages with the culture and what's going on, and he puts himself out there as an activist. He talks about a lot of things that's going on, very political, very, very opinionated. He has a lot of followers because if people think you have a lot to say and that you're willing to engage with them and you're willing to put your finger on the the tip of the pulse, so to speak, they're willing to follow you and they're willing to hang around you, even if your character was not the most popular in the show. So I don't think this is racially motivated. I think, maybe Caleb needs to do better, but I am disturbed by his family already planting that seed of victimhood in his mind that it's because you're Black. The truth of the matter is, he just doesn't do a lot off screen compared to his co-stars. So he may have to work for it. He may have to, put himself out there more on social media. I mean, it's not even lost on me that what he's complaining about is social media following. Because if you seek validation in social media following, that is not where your values should lie. But this is what he seems to care about. Why aren't I getting more followers in social media? Why do people not care about me more? And again, it's tough, and I don't want to be unsympathetic. I don't want to be like, well, it's tough when you see your co-stars maybe getting a lot of support and attention and you're not, and you're like wondering what's wrong with me. But again, he's not starved exactly for attention. He's just not getting as much as some of his co-stars. So, I want to say, you can't force people to like and care about you, but right now the most popular So what I wanted to say is right now, this guy from Africa is the most popular TikToker in the world. This man is the most popular TikToker, and it didn't start that way. You remember in the past, there were a slew of white girls who were the most followed TikTokers, and this guy, he just came in and he ate that whole game up because people wanted to see him. And you look at him, he has the same features and the same complexion and the same coloring as Caleb McLaughlin, but he is, he didn't complain. He just came in and he let his personality shine, and he's the number one most followed TikToker in the world right now with 150 million followers, despite even barely speaking English. So this is not, I feel as if, for many Black people, it's true that, we are told generally that we're not as universal as, say, whiter skinned people. But at the same time, I feel as if we're just going to have to put our personalities in it, because people will follow you if they think you're interesting, regardless of what your race is. So this dude, if he had listened to people telling him, oh, I'm not that popular, so it must be, I'm not that popular and you're never going to be that popular because you're Black, then he wouldn't put any effort into it. And he put his effort, he put his personality into it. And look at this, he's the most followed person on TikTok. So I don't think, this is racially motivated per se. I mean, you can find people to like you. And I think sometimes the way Black characters are written in a lot of these shows makes a difference in whether or not people care about them. Again, see Rochelle from The Craft. Her character was the least interesting with the least going on in that show. And so she kind of fell into the marginalized peripheral role where they think she wasn't important, which wasn't fair to her. And we see, with Stranger Things, Caleb's character of Lucas has slightly more to do and is better written than Black characters typically are in ensemble shows, in terms of them actually being integrated with the other characters and having more to do than just being the sidekick friend. But behind the scenes, his co-stars they put themselves out there more on social media in the general pop culture sphere. They engage with other famous people more. He doesn't. So that might explain it. It doesn't mean because his character wasn't the most popular on the show, it means he had to have the least following. That's not necessarily true. Again, George Takei, anyone more popular on social media than William Shatner, despite him not being the main central character in Star Trek. So William Shatner has 2.5 million. So George Takei has nearly 1 million more followers than William Shatner, not being the main guy. Despite not being the main guy, George Takei has nearly 1 million more followers than William Shatner. And he had to work for that. He had to put his voice out there. He had to, become an activist. He had to put himself, engage with people. He had to be a part of, what's going on in the current to do that. So I don't think this is racially motivated. I think Caleb just needs to, if he cares that much about, people caring about him, then I think he just may have to put himself out there more on social media. He's definitely part of that generation of Zoomers who love social media. He will likely have to show people that he's interested behind the scenes, that he's more than just the guy from the show. But hey, that's just my take on it. I just don't feel that his parents or any parent should be telling their kid, oh, if you're not as popular as someone else, then it's due to racism. I just don't think that's the way to go. And I wish his parents hadn't done that to him. But, because it's obvious that years later, it's still stuck in his head that, oh, it's because I'm black. And now, the fans are racist. You're racist if you don't love him as much as you love Noah's character, or Noah, or Finn, or Millie, or Sadie, or any of the others. I just wish that wasn't the case. You can't force people to like you. You can show people that there's more to you than just, the guy from the show, and people will care. But anyway, I just don't like some of these comments. But that's what I have to say about this. Please subscribe, like, and have a respectful discussion in the comment section. I do read them, even though sometimes I don't respond, but please like and share. It means a lot to me. Thanks.